We're loving and hating and making scenes. Now we just see everything we believe.
Hello, what's going on, YouTube fam? This is your boy J Money here. How you guys liking my new setup right here? Yep, this is my room. So yeah, got a few Naruto posters over here. Black Ops 4 poster right here. Infinite Warfare, Black Ops 1, Advanced Warfare over here. Naruto Ninja Storm 4 over here. Fast and Furious, Black Ops 2. Yeah. So we got a nice little decorative setup here versus, just at work behind a boring display. So, give you guys something to look at. Anyway, video today. Well, it's Friday. I was going to make a World Challenge deck profile, and then I figured, wait a minute. It's Friday. Salamangreats, guys. Salamangreats. Alright. For a lot of you who already know me, I do not like Salamangreat. I do not like that deck. A lot of other people do not like Salamangreat. There are a lot of people who are going to play the deck. Simply because of just how budget friendly it is, or some people like it. I don't know. I don't like it. I don't like Salamangreat at all. You may as well just, for me, just lump it up in there in the same category as Sky Striker, True Draco, Paleos, Altergeist, Guru Control. You just may as well just lump it in that category right there. Precisely why I don't like the deck, and a lot of other people don't like the deck. But over my history of playing against the deck, I managed to collaborate a few tools that I could share with you guys to take down that Salamangreat, because we want to be ready against that deck. We don't like decks like that, especially decks like that. Now, there's a few key points with the Salamangreat structure deck that shares a lot of similarities with another deck, and that is Trickstars. Trickstars, as a deck for the longest time, had a very, very condensed engine. You didn't need to play a lot of cards, so you had a lot of space for a lot of hand traps, which Salamangreats play at least 10 hand traps. That's something you need to keep in mind. 10 hand traps is one big deal, so even if you go first against that deck, chances are you're gonna face down at least 2 of them. Odds are. And the strength of Trickstars is that not only do they play a lot of hand traps, they play a lot of trap cards in general because they are more of a control, stun-based strategy. Same thing with Salamangreat, being Solemn Strike, Salamangreat Roar, Salamangreat Rage, and things like that. Luckily, they don't play Floodgates unless they side deck them. But with this being mine, with Salamangreat sharing the same strengths as Trickstars, they also share the same weaknesses as Trickstars. So, let's go ahead and break this stuff down, shall we? Alright, starting off with probably the most annoying part of the deck, the trap card, Salamangreat Roar and Rage. Alright, these 2 cards right here are really, really, really annoying to deal with. Nobody wants to deal with these cards. Alright, so obvious thing, if your deck can support Denko Sekka, then I'd go for it. I'd go for the Denko, but keep in mind, only use Denko in decks that don't need a normal summon, but you should already know that. Just because you lock down the back row doesn't mean you are completely safe to go off, because again, the deck plays 10 hand traps, so that's something you got to be careful of. But stopping the trap cards is half the battle. That's already good within itself. Next, you have Red Reboot. If you can somehow find a way to where to bait out your opponent's Salamangreat Rage, if you know your opponent is going to, if you can put your opponent in a position to flip over Roar over Rage, then Red Reboot is your best friend in that regard. Alright, so that's another obvious one. If you aren't really too worried about Roar or Rage, but you're more worried about Roar, then you can play something like Twin Twisters. It sucks, guys. It sucks having to neg neg 2 just for your opponent to neg 1, but sometimes making sure your key cards go through, if you are not really too concerned about Rage, because I'm trying to, does Rage target? I don't know, I'll have it on the screen. If Salamangreat Rage targets, then a card like Fantastical Dragon Phantasme can do you some good against that deck. Against Rage in specific. Remember, Rage has 2 different effects, and I'll get into them later because there's another card that can help deal with these cards. Number 3 or number 4? Number 4. And it's my favorite outs to a lot of threats. Kaijus. If you read Salamangreat Roar and Salamangreat Rage, Salamangreat Roar in general will be turned off if they do not control a Salamangreat Link Monster. Period. They have to control a Salamangreat Link Monster for them to be able to flip that card over. So if you Kaiju their Salamangreat Sunlight Wolf, well, that's turned off. Same thing with Salamangreat Rage, except it turns off the effect that they normally go for. There's 2 effects for Salamangreat Rage. Again, I don't remember if it targets or not. I will have it on the screen for you guys to read. Or I probably already had it on the screen, but if it says target, then you're in a good spot. Because again, Fantastical Dragon kind of shuts that down. But the second effect is what Salamangreat players using Rage would normally go for. And that is destroying cards on the opponent's side of the field equal to the link rating of the link monster that they targeted. So, I don't know. Does Saravis protect any monster from being targeted? I don't know. If it protects any monster from being targeted, then you could actually use Saravis to negate the Rage. But I'm not sure about Saravis. So, and I don't want to go all the way in my bag and just pull it out right here. So, again, trap cards is like the biggest threat of this deck. So I think I got most of the viable, like, effective answers out of the way. So, that's for that. Now let's talk about hand traps. Obviously, you got Called by the Grave, whatever. When I was playing Necros for the longest time, I didn't only just play Called by the Graves, I also played Instant Fusions for Millennium Eyes so I could get that extra protection. That's really, really important. If, your deck loses to a lot of hand traps, it loses multiples, you might want to consider playing Millennium Eyes at the same time. Millennium Eyes isn't, just good against hand traps as well. Remember, you could use it against big boards. So, the boards like, let's say, Guard Dragon Crusadia. Let's say they don't have a Nat Beast, but they have, they got the Hard Red Dragon Archfiend Abyss, they got the Borderlord Savage, and, like, let's say you hand trapped them somewhere along the way, or you waited for them to summon Rescue Cat, you asked, and you stopped the Nat Beast, and they only have 2 negates. Well, they're more likely to let the Instant Fusion go because nobody plays Millennium Eyes, and let's say you're going off with your plays, and then you force them to respond with, like, a Crystal Wing or something, to negate. You could then chain Millennium Eyes to attempt to take the Crystal Wing, to make sure that effect goes through, or you can target the Borderlord Savage Dragon to eat up that negate at the same time. So Millennium Eyes does a really good job in using up 2 interruptions at once. So hand traps is not really too much you can do there. There is another option for against this deck, and that is Magical Midbreaker Field. It is limited, however, you can activate it during main phase 1 or 2, so you can search why do I keep saying Salamangreat? You can search your Midbreaker Field with Terraforming, enter battle phase, and go straight to main phase 2 and activate Midbreaker Field. It'll not only protect your stuff from getting destroyed by Roar and Rage, these Salamangreat decks also play Infinite Impermanence. It stops them from targeting. Some of them play Ghost Ogre. so it stops that as well. So Magical Midbreaker Field is another really good tool to use against Salamangreats. I feel like I'm missing like one more thing. Oh yeah, now if you want to just... This is all just going second options. All options for going second. Now, if you're going first against a deck, and your deck can handle this, it's a floodgate. I really don't like floodgates. I don't, like to encourage people to play floodgates. But if you flip over, there can be only one against that deck. That deck really, really struggles. Unless they have a Twin Twisters, they basically have no choice but to end their turn or just scoop it up and go to the next game. This is an incredibly effective tool, and I know Subterra Control can easily implement that card. Other decks as well, if you're controlling just a bunch of different things with different types and attributes, then yeah, there can only be one works. Artifact Sanctum and Artifact Scythe works, of course, because if, locking down the extra deck is, pretty good. If they can't make Valix to search their field spell and the Sunlight Wolf to get stuff out of the graveyard, you slow them down to, immensely. And Salamangreat Rage is not live if they so happen to open it. Alright, so, other cards in their main deck that you may want to consider dealing with. First one, Salamangreat Gazelle, the Foolish Burial. A lot of people, myself included, are very, very tempted to dealing with Gazelle because even if they have the other combo pieces in hand like Spinny and all that, them not getting... for as long as they don't get access to Salamangreat Roar, because they only play about one copy, because you don't need to play more than one, because you're just going to access it with Gazelle. For as long as they don't get access to that counter trap, the better off you'll be in terms of dealing with those boards and maintaining that control. But if they already have it, they may go for Rage. Again, stopping them from getting as many access to as many trap cards as possible is a good thing, Sometimes they don't even they may just need to get access to Spinny, because they may not have it. So stopping them from potentially getting access to Spinny is a good thing. So even though you don't know what else is in their hand, you're stopping them from getting three really, really important pieces for establishing a really solidified board. And it may just be enough for them to just end on a weak board. Now remember, they do play Solemn Strikes and things like that, so something you have to also consider. Next is their MX Saber Invoker card, their XCs. Now, you may think it's... I still think it's better to hit Gazelle because the Invoker only accesses monsters. It doesn't access their trap cards or anything. Now, if they didn't already have Gazelle access and someone made that Invoker, okay, then yes, you deal with it. If you have Impermanence, if you have Effect Veiler, if you have Ash Blossom, yeah, go and stop that. Stop them from getting access to Gazelle, and you're going to be in a really, good spot. You're going to be in a good spot. Because there have been times where people can only have access to Foxy and Spinny, and they make Invoker that way. So pay attention to what they make their Invoker with. Not only that, but even if they had access to Gazelle somehow, if you don't stop the Gazelle and let's say you just want them to get a little bit further in their combo, they can't. If you stop their Invoker, they have to use it to make Sunlight Wolf, because if you don't stop it, then they'll end up summoning a monster from the deck, using the monster that they summon and the Valix and the Sunlight Wolf. They keep the Invoker there. Then they can, they're going to get access to Jaguar if they resolve that Invoker. And Jaguar summoning the Sunlight Wolf zones will trigger Sunlight Wolf to add Gazelle back to hand, so they have that follow-up for next turn. So once you in that respect, if you can deal with their initial stuff and just want to stop them from following up the next turn, that's your go-to. You want to stop the Invoker so that you can stop Jaguar from hitting the board, so they have nothing to summon out of the graveyard to trigger Sunlight Wolf, so they can't get Gazelle back to their hand. So at that point, it's up to you to not summon to Sunlight Wolf's zone as juicy as it may seem to get that extra zone, sometimes you don't want to do it. Sometimes you don't want to give them that gazelle, for follow-ups. You want them to have to use more resources. That's a good thing because this deck excels at resourcing pretty good. I think I'm missing something else. I'm not sure. Jeez. So, all these in mind, this is how I end up just... I rarely lose against Salamangreats when I'm actually playing a really competent deck. When I'm playing against something I'm really serious about. And I'm just like, okay. It took 2 matches against Salamangreat for me to figure out. I was like, okay, this has the exact same strengths as Trickstar. So, I just apply the logic for taking down Trickstars over to Salamangreat. And it works pretty well. But again, their strengths is they can play a bunch of hand traps. They play at least 10 of them things. And there's defensive trap cards. Just like Trickstars. They play a bunch of hand traps and they play a bunch of trap cards. So, knowing this, you know the tools you need to take that deck down. And kind of stop them from resourcing as well. Macrocosmos' cards work really well. If you can, Abyss Dweller-ish kind of cards, things like that, they all work. Just a little tidbit of information there. So, anyway, this is just the cliff notes of just dealing with Salamangreats pretty effectively. I hope you guys learned something from this. If I missed something really, really crucial, really important, let me know down in the comments below. Anyway, that is it, guys. Thank you guys very much for watching. This is J Money, and I am...
Through the wastelands, through the highways, and